Welcome back to Only Single Player and our new series analyzing The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. My name is Ian, and in this episode I'll be taking an in-depth look at one of Geralt's adventures in Skellige, a quest called Possession. As I said at the start of the first episode, this series is full of ideas and interpretations that are mine and mine alone. I don't intend to outline how The Witcher 3 really works or tell anyone what it's really saying. The game is saying and doing more than I could cover in the time that I have, and that's really the point. The Witcher 3 displays the kind of narrative depth this series is investigating. And of course, there will be some pretty substantial spoilers in this video, so consider yourself warned. Before jumping into Possession, I want to talk a bit about Beowolf and kin-killing, and when I say Beowolf, I'm not talking about the CGI disaster, I'm talking about the actual poem. If you've not read the very old, very long poem, it takes place in early medieval Scandinavia, a setting not unlike the Skellige Isles. In the poem, Beowulf and his company of Geats arrive in Denmark by longship. They join King Hrothgar in his mead hall, and there is much drinking and joviality. The Danes of Beowulf are a stern but fair people, made tough by harsh winters and bitter warfare. Feats of strength and fealty to kin and clan are prized above all, while cowardice and betrayal are almost beyond redemption. If you've played The Witcher 3 and have spent any time in the island nation of Skellige, this should sound pretty familiar. The parallels between Beowulf's setting and Skellige are hardly surprising, given that Beowulf has influenced Western fantasy fiction from Tolkien to Martin. Even in other fantasy games, Beowulf's influence remains. High Hrothgar, meeting place of the Greybeards in Bethesda's Skyrim, is one of many nods to the genre's roots. What is especially intriguing about The Witcher 3's Possession is how it may have a more direct connection with the poem. In Beowulf, there's a lesser-known character by the name of Unferth. Unferth is jealous of Beowulf, who is a warrior of renown, and he challenges Beowulf in the mead hall, trying to smear his good name. Beowulf calls out Unferth for cowardice and, as it happens, the crime of kin-killing. The Spear Danes live by a warrior code emphasizing fealty between clans and families. In such a society, fratricide is second only to patricide, but neither are light offenses. In The Witcher 3, Possession centers around Jarl Udalryk of Spikeroog, who bears some resemblance to Beowulf's Unferth.
As custom has it, the clan's sword should go to the firstborn son, Udalryk, but his father gave Bokvar to his little brother, Aki.
Serious insult in these lands.
Serious enough for Udalryk to break a sacred law here in Skellige. He openly questioned his father's decision.
Guessing the old Jarl couldn't let it pass.
They chained Udalryk to a pile, up to his waist in the sea. Spent 3 days like that. When his punishment ended, he and Aki sailed out to fish.
Got a feeling this trip didn't end happily.
Your feeling's right. There was an accident. A storm broke out and Aki fell overboard. Udalryk had his hands full with the sails. Didn't hear his brother until it was too late.
Didn't hear, or didn't want to hear?
Some folk on the isle had the same doubt, but none would mention it aloud.
What do you think? Did Udalryk kill Aki?
I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I do think whatever happened at sea that day, well, it's affecting Udalryk right now, powerfully so, and it could have something to do with that sword.
As Cerys points out, Udalryk, jealous of his younger brother receiving so much glory, breaks custom and challenges his father. He is duly punished for this offense, but the story does not end there. Aki dies at sea, and Udalryk's involvement in Aki's death remains unknown and unresolved. Nobody claims it was murder, but no one knows the full truth either. Cerys believes that the curse lingering over Udalryk is, at the very least, punishment for Udalryk neglecting his kin, allowing Aki to die, if not outright throwing him to the sea. Interestingly, in Beowulf, once the titular hero has slain Grendel and is off to fight the monster's mother, Unferth attempts to settle things between them by offering him a famous blade, Hrunting. This effectively eliminates bad will between the two. Cerys' plan to restore the family blade, Bokvar, to Aki's body in order to heal any bad will between the brothers is yet another similarity worthy of note. The rest of the quest, while in no way a departure from Western fantasy roots, bears less direct resemblance to Beowulf. Many on the Skellige Isles believe that Udalryk is chosen, that he hears the voices of the gods. It is Cerys who actually sees Udalryk's condition for what it is, the lingering pain of his guilt over Aki's death. The monster fueling the curse eventually reveals itself to be a Heim, an interesting fantasy representation of grief complicated by guilt. Whether or not Udalryk killed his brother, and it seems unlikely that he actually murdered him, he suffers from the guilt and shame of not being able to save him. He was angry with Aki and possibly could have done more to help once the storm that claimed Aki's life struck. With Aki's death, Udalryk is faced with regret that cannot be abated. The rift between him and his brother can never be healed. At least, that's what it feels like to him. The Heim is, of course, a fantasy creature, but it's only a metaphor, a stand-in for the remarkable staying power of guilt and grief. Those who remain in tragedy's wake often feel unworthy of life, and if guilt is complicating the grief of losing a loved one, healing can represent a real challenge. The Heim resonates because, for so many people, grief complicated by guilt feels very real, like a weight, something that stays with the individual and refuses to leave. It takes on a life of its own, feeding on the energy of the afflicted, causing a depression that can spiral out of control. Udalryk's self-mutilation under the Heim's influence is an extreme example of the kind of self-torture that guilt-ridden are prone to, but again, it's a fantasy representation of something grounded in reality.
Any way to defeat it?
Two methods that work, in theory. They say a Heim can be tricked. You have to pretend to do something horrible, then it'll move on to you as its new victim. When it realizes it's been tricked, it'll be forced to leave.
Great. Let's try it.
Don't know anyone who's pulled it off.
Well, maybe no one's thought up a trick that was good enough. What's this other way?
Witcher's bestiaries say you have to spend a night in the Heim's lair with the affected individual.
The haunted house, you mean? It's hardly cozy, but I wager you've slept in worse conditions.
It's not about sleeping. You've got to draw the Heim out. It has to emerge from the shadows, show itself. Can't hurt it otherwise.
And it's sure to give as good as it gets.
You've seen Udalryk. It won't be an easy fight.
I know you're doubtful, but we should at least try to find a way to trick the Heim.
As Geralt mentions, there are a couple of ways to beat the Heim. One involves tricking the creature into latching onto a new host, and the other involves confronting the creature directly and acknowledging it. To my mind, both methods seem to incorporate some truth about grief. The Witcher's method accurately reflects that grief must be met head-on and confronted in order to be overcome, while tricking the Heim indicates that grief and guilt are illusory and immaterial to begin with. The darkness that hangs over us has no real power unless we give it power, and it can be tricked, driven away by a turn of perspective. That is not to say either method is easy. Both represent a significant challenge, and that too is an accurate reflection of reality. This is where things get really complicated, however. As usual, Geralt has a choice to make. He can side with Cerys, trusting her plan, or he can stick to his guns and resolve the Heim using Witcher's methods. Trusting Cerys seems like the harder of the two choices and should therefore yield a more positive result, but that isn't the case at all.
Over there! She's running to the old house! Grab her!
Take him. You must put him in the oven. Trust me.
Take care not to hurt the child! Give me the babe!
In the oven. Throw him in the oven. Witcher committed no crime. You'll find neither despair nor guilt here, only shock and relief. You've been tricked. You must go.
If you side with Cerys, things work out in the end. But a baby is stolen, a couple innocent guards die, and Udalryk suffers immensely before he learns the truth of the plan. Taking the easy route, the Witcher's way, leads to 0 innocent deaths, and Udalryk isn't led to believe that his child has been murdered before his very eyes. I definitely sided with Cerys during my first playthrough because I like her character and I did trust that she had a good plan, and it seemed like one, but I didn't know the alternative until I played through the quest again. Siding with Cerys certainly seems nice, and Geralt's relationship with her becomes more meaningful as a result, but it does so at the cost of innocent lives. So why side with Cerys, when it seems to be the more destructive path? If the Witcher's way yields the same result without the loss of life, what is gained besides the enhancement of Geralt's relationship to Cerys? Well, there's an interesting subtext that runs the length of the quest, involving Cerys questioning Geralt about Yennefer.
You and my dad, we were mates once, right?
Hope we still are.
But, well, I heard you fell out over something, or someone.
Talking about that story with Yennefer? Long time ago, that. In fact, that was before Croc met the woman who'd be your mother.
But you and Yennefer had already met?
Things were never cut and dried with Yen.
What is it about her? What is it that draws you?
Dunno. Maybe, it's 'cause I've never chosen comfort and ease, the calm and the quiet.
Where's Yennefer?
Don't know. Why do you ask?
I just wonder why she let you come here alone.
What do you mean, let me?
Nothing. Not a thing. Just got the impression she doesn't like to let you out of her sight. Just please don't tell me you have to consult Yennefer on such things as well. If we fail to think of anything, we can always try the Witcher's way.
What is it with you and Yennefer? Mentioned her several times already.
Nothing. I've just noticed that you're often of one mind.
Saying I'm henpecked.
Not that you're especially different. Seems to happen to all men. Take a rowdy Skellige, a brave knight, or a tough Witcher. You all end up wrapped around some woman's finger. And you? Gonna stay on Speaker Rug?
Don't know yet. Gotta gather my thoughts.
I'm sure Yennefer must be grown impatient.
Thought we already discussed that.
We did.
Even in the final moments of the quest, in the last conversation Geralt has with Cerys, she brings it up again. You'll all end up wrapped around some woman's fingers, Cerys claims, referring, of course, to the men of the Witcher's world. Furthermore, Geralt admits that he's never chosen comfort and ease, the calm and the quiet. Now, I'm not saying it's a sure thing, but perhaps the quest is allowing the player to put Geralt in exactly that position, by way of Cerys this time, rather than Yennefer. You can deny Cerys' allegations, disagree, and claim that Geralt is not in fact subject to the will of another, but by siding with Cerys and thereby producing what is undoubtedly the more destructive of the two outcomes, what are you proving for Geralt's character? That he chooses chaos? That 9 times out of 10 he'll choose the more destructive path? Why did you side with Cerys if you did? It's definitely worth consideration. That is it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in to our ongoing analysis of The Witcher 3's quests and characters. There's a lot more to explore in this vast and wonderfully detailed open world, so be sure to check back in soon for more videos on The Witcher 3. As always, if you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe, as that really helps out the channel. And if you're interested, check out our Patreon campaign for details on how you can help further support our single-player game coverage. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My name is Ian, and my handle is on the screen, as is Only Single Players. And check out our website for all your single-player gaming news. Thanks again, and see you next time.